Hey guys, Claire here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about all things Harry and Meghan. Now, a new series from the Suits universe is in the works due to the recent success of Suits on Netflix and Peacock. So I'm very excited to see that. Will it be as good as Suits or as the first spin-off Pearson? That's to be seen. Now, Harry and Meghan recently released the latest Archwell Foundation Insight Report, which basically gives us an insight into some of the behind-the-scenes work that they've been doing. And I always say whenever we don't see them, it doesn't mean that they're not doing anything. They do a lot of work behind the scenes. So it's always interesting when they reveal some of these annual reports that really gives us a better insight to a lot of the behind the scenes work that they've been doing.
Carson told us about his royal encounter.
We had more time off stage than on stage, which was great. Just talking. We're all parents. We're all in this fight for mental health. They're lovely.
Now, we recently saw a resurfaced 60 Minutes video from one of the parents who were a part of Archwell's recent summit on World Mental Health Day. And the story is so heartbreaking. And for those of you who did watch parts of the summit, then you will recognize the parents and see just how emotional and choked up her father is on the summit, talking about the loss of his child and the role that social media played in it.
In her favorite pose.
Right now, the Roberts family says social media is not safe for kids. England Roberts was the baby in a large family, the center of her parents' Tony and Brandy's world. Brandy received a text from a parent of one of England's friends who was worried about England and suggested they check on her.
We went upstairs and we checked, and her door was locked, and that was kind of odd. I took the key from the top, and we opened the door, and no England. And when I turned around, that's when I found her.
Now, soon after the summit, I believe it was a day or maybe 2 days after the summit in New York, the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, and the New York Governor, Kathy Hochul, both announced a new litigation to protect children online, which is phenomenal. Archwell also issued a statement on the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as well as released information about the support of the Girl Scout troops in New York. Now, for those of you who have been following Meghan for quite a while, then you would know that she's been a long-time supporter of Girl Scouts. And I mean, she herself was one when she was younger. Her mother was a Scout leader. And so this just is very consistent with a lot of the things that Meghan has been doing since she was a little girl. We also got to see a photo of Prince Harry, Meghan, the Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy, and the second gentleman, Douglas Imhoff, who is, of course, the husband to our Vice President, Kamala Harris. In 2019, Vice President Harris had provided words of support for Meghan. Now, this is not surprising. Remember, they're both Cali girls, they're both biracial women, they're both prominent public figures who receive a tremendous amount of abuse from certain sections of the media. So, yeah.
Right, it's education. I think all of us can stand behind the value and the importance of education, especially having access to it. But that access to it and what it is can now come in different shapes and forms, and you can still show up in the world in such a strong and valuable way. Even if you don't take the more traditional route, you're still taking a route of education that is going to be additive. That's the piece that's so powerful about the work here.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex were back in New York City for World Mental Health Day. And before I discuss the events of the day, I just want to say that it's quite clear Prince Harry was not playing with security this time around. They had a police escort and multiple vehicles with blacked out windows, making sure that they moved through the city safely, which is smart because it made it difficult for any paparazzi who would have wanted to follow them to know which vehicle they were in. Also, the irony is not lost on me that the Daily Mail shared this video of the increased security while also being a major part of the reason that they need increased security. Harry and Meghan's first stop of the day was to the Marcy Lab School, which is a one-year alternative to college program that was founded in 2019 by two former middle school teachers. The goal of the school is to change the way that young Black and Brown students get jobs in technology and to encourage these students to pursue technology with a purpose. The students at the Marcy Lab complete a year-long fellowship where they learn software engineering, with mental wellness and civic engagement incorporated into the curriculum as well. The Archwell Foundation provided a grant to the Marcy Lab in January of 2023, and they've continued to partner with them throughout the year.
They made a financial commitment in the Marcy Lab School a little less than a year ago, and along with that commitment, they also made a promise to uplift our work and to shine a light on it, and it was really cool to see the way that they did that today.
What the teachers say in that clip is so important because it makes all the difference in why Harry and Meghan's events are impactful. This isn't a one-time visit. They didn't choose a random school to drop into for a photo opportunity. This is a relationship. They find people in groups who are passionate about the same causes that they are, and they build a community with them to work toward common goals. And they also kept their promise of uplifting and shining a light on the school itself. Multiple mainstream media outlets were not only talking about Harry and Meghan's visit, but also the purpose of the school itself. And we can't talk about this visit without talking about what Meghan wore. I said in a recent video that I think the reason Harry and Meghan's fashion choices stand out is because they dress for the event they are attending. And Meghan could not have done that any better today than by wearing the Letterman's jacket she was gifted by the debate team at the Robert Clack School in Essex during her 2020 visit for International Women's Day. I think that Meghan wearing this jacket is an absolutely brilliant choice for a couple of reasons. One, let's be honest, it will be difficult for anyone else to duplicate. You can make excuses for two people wearing outfits of a similar color or two people wearing pantsuits, but not something like this. Also, Meghan wearing this jacket shows the students who gave it to her that it actually meant something to her. So much so that 3 years later, after multiple moves to multiple countries, not only does she still have it, but she thought it was special enough to wear it on a day like today. And while we are on the topic of fashion, Harry and Meghan's outfits for the afternoon event were perfect as well. Harry wore a navy blue suit and tie for the more serious conversation, but it was Meghan who caught everyone's eye in her strapless white blazer and pants outfit that, again, will be difficult for others to copy. Personally, I think that some of Meghan's best looks have been either strapless or boat neck because they show off her very toned back and arms. She also had the messy bun updo that she's become somewhat known for, and I think that that gives the entire look a feeling of casual elegance. One thing that stood out for me is how Meghan's outfit matches the aesthetic of the stage. Her pantsuit almost melts into the chair, and her outfit blends perfectly with the flowers, the tables, all of it. And whether intentional or not, this draws your attention to her face and her hair. One more fashion comment. I also love that Meghan wore the custom-made emerald and sapphire earrings to represent Harry and Archie's birthstones. She has several jewelry pieces that connect to Lily, Archie, and Harry, and I just think that's beautiful. For the first ever in-person Archwell Foundation event, Harry and Meghan co-hosted a panel with Surgeon General Vivek Murthy to highlight stories from parents who've lost children connected to social media use. The Archwell Foundation has been working with these families for the past year, again, building a relationship and a community of support. As usual, there were some incredibly sweet moments between Harry and Meghan, like this one.
Being a mom is the most important thing in my entire life, and outside, of course, being a wife to this one.
But the overall message of the panel was much more somber, as the group discussed just how overwhelming the challenge of keeping children safe in a digital world can be.
My husband and I often say if there's going to be so much focus on what we're doing, then to try to focus on what we're focusing on, because their stories are what matter. And trying to safeguard so many other families from experiencing this level of pain. So for us, it's just, what is the solution? What can we do behind the scenes? What do we continue to do behind the scenes? How can we work with professionals and experts to really figure out, in knowing this is not going away, how do we make it safer, better, more positive, so that whether someone is losing a child or almost losing a child, those are some of the other stories we've heard, right?
As someone who works within those companies, as someone who designs them especially, because obviously they're not going away, new ones are going to be created, then do not send, or stop, please stop sending children content that you wouldn't want your own children to see. And I think it's a very simple request, and it's an easy fix. But again, as the dads up here said, it's all about the bottom line. Right. But if the shareholders of these companies can accept that they're going to get a little less profit out of it to make it a safe space, then that would stop the suffering.
I also want to point out the irony that Sky News live streamed this panel while choosing not to live stream William and Kate's, and I will make a separate video for William and Kate's event. But it's just ironic because Sky News is one of the tabloids that continually harass Harry and Meghan, and they are advertising their social media platforms at the bottom of the screen where they harass Harry and Meghan, at the same time live streaming their panel on World Mental Health Day. As the Surgeon General said, just because the task of changing social media is huge, that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. This is, of course, personal to Harry and Meghan, but it's personal to all of us. Some of us have children, and some of us don't, but we're all affected by social media. We see it here even on this app. I know that I receive, many of you receive, disgusting comments, racism, sexism, violent threats in our comment section all the time. We report them and nothing happens because the people who run these social media companies don't want things to change. So Harry and Meghan aren't doing this just to check a box. They are using their platform to bring awareness, but also to work toward a solution. And I don't know if this is solvable. I don't. Because as Meghan said, social media isn't going away. If anything, it's just growing and changing. But I do know that I am thankful that we have people like them who are willing to try.
He's not a whiner. But the British word is spelled Whinger. How do you pronounce that? Winger or whiner or what do you say?
Yeah, whiner, whinger.
Yeah, ginger whinger they call them. Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, let me tell you something. Redheaded people are more sensitive than others. That's a physiological fact. They often need more anesthesia when they have surgery, for example. This is a well-known fact.
Wow.
So the more sensitive you are, the more you experience, the more deeply you experience, the more things hurt. That's his nature. He's and he told me that all his life he felt different from others. He's just more sensitive. But he's not a victim. He doesn't perceive himself as a victim. Not in the least. That's the first question I asked him. Yeah. And in fact, when we talk about trauma, which he experienced, certainly I have, and it's my work in the world, I don't talk about trauma as a way of victimizing people, but as a way of empowering them. And in Harry's own case, as in my own case, and a lot of other people, when you understand how you've been traumatized, then you have the responsibility and the freedom to do something about it.
Yeah.
So to recognize trauma, now you can wrap yourself in this cloak of victimhood. I was traumatized. I can't help it. This is the way I am. Most people I know are not like that. Most people want to understand what happened to them as a way of empowering themselves to heal. And that's his particular trajectory as well. So he's not a victim. He doesn't see himself that way. I don't see him that way. And he is increasingly grounded. He's far happier now than he ever used to be, as he should be. And as far as his children, he's determined not to inflict on his children the kind of pain and emotional deprivation that he experienced in his childhood. And isn't that just what all parents want, is not to make our kids hurt the way we were hurt? I mean, again, it's the universality, the ubiquitous humanity that shows up in his life experience, despite his incredibly special circumstances. Yeah. That's what's so interesting.
If you look at that story, Harry's story, from the outside, and you remove the royal family component, which of course for many people it's very hard to do. But of course, as clinicians, as physicians, Gabor, we always have to treat the people who come in front of us with compassion. It doesn't matter if they're a CEO or they're addicted to drugs or they're poor or they're rich. Makes no difference to a healthcare professional. We treat them all the same. So if you look at this as a human story and you remove the royal family element, we would be celebrating this, saying, wow, what strength to confront your past, to speak up about it, to try and move on, to try and not pass on your own trauma to your children. And so why do you think that is? Why, when you put the royal family envelope around this story, why does the narrative start to change?
I think first of all, people want to idealize. They want to have these fantasy bonds with figures whose lives they find glamorous and more meaningful than their own, and they don't want that illusion shattered. I think that's a part of it. But I think there's a more general cause, which doesn't have to do with royalty. So if you look at Harry's life, he's born to a young, emotionally fairly troubled woman who is in a loveless marriage, whose husband basically, Charles himself was a bullied, sensitive child, emotionally deprived. There was a story about Prince Charles, the current king, 5 years old. His mother, Queen Elizabeth, goes on a royal tour for several months. When she comes back, she greets him by shaking his hand. That's a deprivation. Ashley Montagu talked about the need to be held. When Harry's mother dies, Diana, his father comes into his room early in the morning to tell him, doesn't hug the child. Imagine telling a child that your mother just died and you don't hug the child. He spends a few minutes, touches the kid on the knee and says, it'll be okay, and leaves. And Harry's left on his own. Now, take that out of the royal context. Would you not see that as an example of tragic deprivation, emotional deprivation?
Yeah.
And so, and here's one of the funny things about the British press. I quoted Ashley Montagu, and I said that Montagu talks about the importance of cuddling and holding kids and skin-to-skin contact. And I said, even animals cuddle their kids. I mean, you tell a mother orangutan to ignore a child's emotional distress, or a mother monkey or a mother cat for that matter. I said, even animals hold their kids. The Sunday Times wrote that I said that the royal family treated like kids like animals. I said the opposite. I said they only wish they had treated them like animals, cuddled them, and they needed to be held. So that's an example of severe deprivation. Not anybody's fault. It's multi-generational in that family. So when I asked Harry, well, where does that leave you? He says it leaves me wanting to cuddle my kids and hold them all the time.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to pass that pain on. What is so difficult for people to understand about that? It's because people are themselves hurt and they have trouble looking at the sources of their pain. So when Harry talks about the source of his pain in his family of origin, and again, this is not a blaming conversation. We pass on our stuff. I did to my kids without meaning to. So he was in the same position. And now he wants to liberate his own children from that multi-generational transmission of essential emotional deprivation and trauma. He's vilified for it because he is speaking about what you're not supposed to talk about in the society, which is the emotional pain that suffuses so many families.
Here are 5 rules the royals should follow for their trip to Kenya at the end of the month, for entertainment purposes only. Okay, rule number 1, do not bring anything to the country, to the people that will be harmful to them once you leave, like bed bugs. I'm just saying, it's a thing. And also it's worth mentioning, you kind of have a history of it. Colonialism, tuberculosis. Just saying, take all your ishq with you when you go. Okay. Rule number 2, on the flip, Don't take anything with you that you did not come with. In fact, this may be the perfect time to return the Gaji drum that British soldiers stole more than 100 years ago. At last reports, it was just sitting in a storage room in a British museum. I mean, you're already in the neighborhood. You're going to be with the president. That would be a good thing to do. Just saying. Rule number 3, let's be respectful of other people's culture and when they are sharing their culture with you. Rule number 4, yes, I know it is important to be charming and embracing, yes, but let's not say who touched my bottom. Let's not make others the butt of a joke. That was in bad form. It was in bad taste. Let's not do that again. Rule number 5. So this is a play off of the last rule when William said, who touched me? Nobody touched you. I promise. Yeah, just a reminder. Yeah, not saying there's been an issue, but don't touch our hair. Yes, I know it's mysterious and it's glorious. It defies gravity. I know it's beautiful and we can do so many different things with it. But just a reminder, not saying it's ever been a problem, but just in case you question and you just get a quick concern, don't touch our hair. The 6th and final rule, do not give an autographed picture of yourself to the President and First Lady of Kenya. This is not the gift that you think it is. Go back to the Bokomo drum. But again, is it really a gift if it already belonged to them? But let's think along that line. Not an autographed picture. Rule number 7. All roads lead to Africa. You can be mad about it, but they do. So my Kenyan cousins, did I leave out anything? Please stitch, share, make comments, and share your thoughts below.
4 things Kate Middleton has completely stopped wearing since becoming the Princess of Wales.
4 things Kate stopped wearing when she updated her Meghan Markle Pinterest board. I have one, and I think she has one too. It's just set to private.
Of course, y'all know Mother and Daddy Sussex were in New York for World Mental Health Day. And if you look closely in these pictures here, you will see paparazzi, British media, Daily Fail, you name it, whoever, whatever. They are trying their darndest to get pictures of Mother and Daddy Sussex. But what I love for them is that Mother and Daddy gave them nothing. Nothing but just pictures of a blacked out SUV. I love that for them. See, that's what y'all get. So all it took for Mother and Father was one good time. See, I love that Mother and Father are now in their villain era. They are in their reclaiming their time era. After what happened in New York the last time, they said, you ain't gonna get me again. You're not gonna get me again. And they gave y'all nothing. Y'all went back to your respect, or I can't call them respective, but y'all went back to y'all brands with absolutely nothing, empty-handed, and I love that for y'all. I love that for y'all. Have a good day.
No one is above criticism. If Meghan and Harry did something that should be criticized, then by all means criticize them. However, a lot of the things that you guys criticize them for is rooted in hypocrisy, because other members of the royal family have done similar things, if not the exact same things, which is why I can never take you guys seriously when you try to come with this point. For example, Meghan and Harry spoke about Ukraine, it was criticized. Will and Kate, not criticized. Kate wearing an off-the-shoulder dress, and then Meghan wearing an off-the-shoulder dress. Mind you, they wore these dresses merely weeks apart. Meghan not wearing a hat with the Queen versus Kate and Camilla not wearing a hat with the Queen. Kate and Will trademarking their name versus Harry and Meghan. Kate cradling her bump versus Meghan cradling her bump. We also have Princess Beatrice and how she was treated in the media as well. She was treated fairly well, and she was mostly left alone, and she wasn't accused of trying to steal the spotlight with her bump, and she wasn't accused of being a narcissist for cradling her bump. Meghan's style was also widely criticized as well. Her signature wide leg pants was deemed as being unroyal, and that was supposedly showing signs of her being unfit. And other things about her style as well was also criticized, only for them to try to give Kate props why Meghan was dressing the way she did, and saying that she was following Kate's footsteps all the while. This is how Kate truly dresses, and she was known for wearing coat dresses Throughout the entire duration of her royal life before Meghan entered, she was also known for recreating royal looks and applying them to herself and her children, when we know where she truly got her style inspiration from for her new look that she's been sporting.
Harry and Meghan marked World Mental Health Day this week with their first ever in-person event hosted by their foundation, Archwell. Not only that, but they paid a surprise visit to one of the organizations that Archwell is supporting. Let's talk about it. The big event yesterday was a panel discussion with parents who have experienced loss as a result of their children's use of social media. And we learned that for the past year, Archwell has been working to support parents who have lost children as a result of poor mental health from social media usage. Part of the event involved 2 panel discussions with parents, and the third panel was moderated by, of all people, Carson Daly. It featured Harry and Meghan as well as the US Surgeon General. Carson Daly moderated this panel because he is the board member of Project Healthy Minds, which actually was kind of the host of this Archwell event. When it was Harry and Meghan's turn to take the mic, they did something that really illustrates the difference between being a working royal and just being a philanthropist in general. They got personal and talked about why this issue of social media matters to them.
Being a mom is the most important thing in my entire life. I feel fortunate that our children are at an age, again, quite young, so this isn't in our immediate future. It worries me, but I'm also given a lot of hope and a lot of energy by the progress we've made in the past year, being able to have these incredible parents, these survivors of this experience, to share their stories. It allows us to continue to learn.
I also love that Meghan, she could have gone the route of talking about her own experience with negative mental health outcomes due to social media, but she didn't do that. She focused on her role as a mother and the way that this is going to affect her children in the future, unless, of course, something is done to curb the negative side effects of social media. Really smart, I think, to tie it to your children, the future, rather than just yourself. While we're zoomed in here, a moment for the outfit. I've noticed that people who are used to looking for things to criticize Meghan about are only able to criticize one thing about her from this engagement: the fact that you can see her shoulders. All I can say is, if you're really angry that you can see a woman's shoulders during the daytime in 2023, I think you need to find something better to do with your time. The suit is by the brand Altzara, not to be confused with Aquazzura, who makes her shoes. And right away, I noticed a fashion through line here. This seems to be like a visual callback to the Ripple of Hope Gala Awards that she and Harry accepted last year. Could this off-the-shoulder moment be intentional to remind us that Harry and Meghan have been awarded for their work in the human rights realm? Pretty savvy, if so. Small details that I love from this outfit included her necklace, which seems to be vintage, and her earrings, which are, I believe, custom made for Meghan. The designer of them, Sarah Hendler, posted these on Instagram and noted that she created them using the birthstones of Prince Harry and Prince Archie. So a very personal touch. I mentioned that this panel was not the only event that Harry and Meghan did for World Mental Health Day. They also paid a visit to the Marcy Lab School in Brooklyn, which is a college alternative school that offers full ride fellowships for students in software engineering. A press release from Archwell notes that they have partnered with the Marcy Lab School for the past year. I have to read that as they've been making donations because this school is entirely donor funded. The students do not pay a thing. The school is also focused on building diversity within the tech sector and builds using technology for good into their curriculum. So while you might be thinking visiting a tech school on Mental Health Day doesn't make a lot of sense, I would argue it actually does, and it connects to the panel very well if we're talking about creating safer online spaces. There was also a fashion through line at this event where Meghan sported a Letterman's jacket that she received on her final solo working royal engagement in 2020. Go watch my last video if you would like more information on this fashion moment. All in all, these 2 engagements reminded me what I love about Harry and Meghan's work now that they are no longer representing the palace, because they can do things like make calls to action and show us that they are putting their money where their mouth is, that they are actually helping to make the change happen that they are calling for. That's not to say that they haven't taken techniques from their days as working royals. Listen to Meghan describe how she and Prince Harry are approaching being public figures when it comes to their work.
My husband and I often say, if there's going to be so much focus on what we're doing, then to try to focus on what we're focusing on, because their stories are what matter.
If you look at us, look at what we are paying attention to. They are using their image strategically to highlight causes that they believe in, and World Mental Health Day was a perfect encapsulation of that.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell.